Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. We saw the Strategic Command brief and which was addressing border terrorism and the digital threats overall. Of course, we saw General Waseem Abbasi, Chief of Army Staff, briefed on geostrategic dynamics, national security challenges, and the Army's counter strategy. We'll be talking about, of course, the emphasis for justice on the May 9th riots, which was, of course, has been a very, very important part of the overall strategy. The perpetrators, abettors and facilitators should be brought to justice. We'll be talking about the importance of swift justice and the rule of law for national stability. Of course, border terrorism, cross-border attacks by militants using safe havens in Afghanistan. Of course, the loss of precious lives of Pakistani soldiers, the Pakistan Army, and the counter strategy to terrorism with regard to that. All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Lieutenant General Raza Muhammad, who's former President NDU. Thank you for being with us. Waseem Abbasi, who's a senior journalist. Wajih Abbasi, who's a political analyst. Thank you for being with us today. General Saab, can you hear me?
Okay.
General Saab, there is, of course, we know, and of course it's of paramount importance that all the perpetrators of the May 9th attacks be brought to justice. We saw the brief overall. We saw, of course, the address on border terrorism. What is your overall take on what was said in the briefing?
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I think obviously these were three very important issues, not only facing the armed forces, but these are being faced by Pakistan and its people. Talking first about terrorism emanating from neighboring countries, I think that's a concern of every Pakistani citizen. It's not the concern of the law enforcement agencies alone, and it is important to be addressed because terrorists are now hurting, our economic interests. They're also hurting, our relationships with friendly countries like China, Iran, and others. And I think it was only 2 or 3 days back when the Interior Minister very rightly and formally asked the government of Pakistan to hand over the masterminds of the Bisham attack on the Chinese engineers. And of course, there were names and dossiers communicated to the interim Afghan government. I think it was only yesterday that a senior official from the Ministry of Interior visited Afghanistan, and I'm sure he must have repeated the concerns of the government of Pakistan to them. So these are steps in the right direction, and we hope.
Let me interject. I want to talk, of course, about the threats as far as the counter across the border that we are looking at from Afghanistan also. But of course, there were 2 or 3 areas here. Now, also what happened on May 9th, the internal situation pursuant to that, of course, the justice side of it, and then, of course, digital terrorism, which was also spoken about, and its own ramifications. As far as the issue of cross-border terrorism is concerned, like you said, we've been very categorical, we've been very we've laid it out quite bare that this cannot continue, and we cannot lose, Pakistan cannot lose precious lives over this kind of terrorism. Do you expect there to be a swift reaction to this?
Well, I think like in the past, the spokesperson of the Afghan government a day earlier than this briefing, the briefing by the Interior Minister, they denied, this is their default mode, which is very unfortunate. And we hope that this time, I think they will take swift action. And I think that there should be a regional approach. It should not be left to Pakistan alone. Pakistan, China, Iran, Saudi Arabia, UAE, I think they all have economic stakes inside Pakistan. And I think they all should now exert pressure on the government of Afghanistan to take immediate action on what Pakistan has said. And the Chinese Foreign Ministry has also referred to that, and they have endorsed, Pakistan's viewpoint on that. Coming,
Let me include Waseem Saab and then I'll come back to you, Waseem Abbasi. Waseem Saab, there is, overall, of course, we've also seen 11 militants are in custody for the March suicide attack on Chinese engineers. Like General Saab was just saying, of course, this is, as far as being stakes are concerned, as far as the UAE is concerned, as far as Saudi Arabia is concerned, as far as China is concerned, there are huge stakes within Pakistan, and therefore there is collective interest in ensuring that there is safety, and there is none of this kind of terrorism can be allowed at any cost. As far as the reaction overall is concerned, of course, to some extent we were expecting a denial, but do you see this, now things, of course, moving in the right direction?
I think you have rightly mentioned that stakes are very high. Can you hear me?
Gigi, I can, loud and clear.
Okay. So, actually, yes, I think the stakes are very high, and we need to protect the interests of Chinese because they are involved in a lot of development activities in Pakistan. The friendship is too important to be lost. The Prime Minister is visiting China. So, I hope that the Afghan side will realize the implications of worsening relationship with Pakistan. A landlocked country like Afghanistan, they really need Pakistan's help, and Pakistan has been helping them with Afghan transit trade and all other things. The routes are provided. So I think they will realize sooner or later, because now the pressure is being exerted by Chinese as well, because the Chinese were involved in development projects in Afghanistan, and now because Chinese were targeted in Pakistan with the aid of Afghan-based terrorists. So now the Chinese side is also, exerting some pressure on Afghan government, and now I think they will come to some realization that the worsening relationship with Pakistan is not in even Afghanistan's interest.
As far as the impact, let me go to Wajih Abbasi. Can you hear me, Wajih sir? Wajih sir, can you hear me? There seems to be a problem with audio. General Saab, as far as the relationship with Pakistan and China is concerned, how do you look at this? Of course, they have supported Pakistan, they have stood by, they have confidence in our ability to deal with any attempts of terrorism within Pakistan and on Pakistani soil. But how do you see our relationship in the wake of this?
Well, I think our relationship with China, as they say, is all weather, and I think it will not be affected too much, to the extent that they could decide, stop or diminish their investment in the CPEC or other areas. So I think we should be sure about that. But coming back, to the other two important issues that you made a mention of. First, just a few words about, the May 9 cases, and I think it is the justice to them is overdue. And as they say, justice delayed is justice denied. Therefore, I think that point was very rightly brought out, that unless the perpetrators, masterminds, are punished and their supporters are punished, I think there would be some kind of instability in Pakistan. So that is important, and I'm sure now our courts and other law enforcement agencies would seriously look into this matter. Coming to the digital terrorism, I just like to say that the conventional terrorists, they have their aims and objectives. They have a philosophy. They have a political, military, psychosocial, even a religious philosophy to achieve their aims and objectives. Similarly, the digital terrorists have their own philosophy. They are now using social media, and they have weaponized the social media platforms to attain their own political and other objectives. and unless and until effective measures and steps are taken, not only by the government but also the owners of the social media platforms, this is going to hurt the national security of Pakistan. It is aimed, at hijacking particular.
It is in fact an extremely important facet of the kind of terrorism that has permeated, into our lives recently, and I want to come to that also. But let me include Wajih Abbasi. Ji, Wajih Saab, can you hear me?
Yes, yeah.
Wajih Saab, there is, of course, Pakistan's unwavering resolve to combat the attempts of terrorism and extremism were reiterated. There was also emphasis on significant challenges in the ongoing war against terrorism. Armed forces and their relentless efforts in trying and ensuring that Pakistani soil and its people are kept safe. There are no two opinions on that. And the necessity of dismantling terrorist hideouts and eliminating extremist elements was highlighted. With a view to these elements that was spoken about, how far and how, as far as our speed is concerned, how do you look at the near future in the wake of this briefing, in the wake of this conference?
Actually, it was long overdue. Frankly, the social media has become very important. You have been through to an IPOR survey recently released, in which says that 1% of the Pakistanis use social media for information, and this percentage grows as the people with lesser in the younger age group, especially 18-35 years old, this goes up to 51%. So most of the people use social media for information. The traditional sources of information like print media is very uncommon now. Even TV is just 30%. So we need to regulate this thing so that this is not misused. Now, we recently, in recent years, since the social media has come, social media platforms have become important. Even the countries like the United States, there has been concerns in 2016 elections, 2020 elections, that the American elections were influenced by the Russians through social media. Then even the coming elections, there are concerns that the social media is being used to influence those elections. Even the European governments are taking different measures to control the misuse of social media. So this is very important to control it. And in our country, social media. We don't have actually very strict laws on libel and defamation and that sort of thing, even otherwise. And social media platforms like YouTube, Facebook, WhatsApp are being used quite frequently, not only to spread disinformation, but they have been used in a very categorical way and a very systematic way to launch campaigns against against governments, against institutions, against
in some cases, and one can't really forget that. I want to come to that. Let me go back to General Saab on this. General Saab, you were earlier also talking about this as far as digital terrorism is concerned and our ability to deal with it is concerned. In the recent past, we've also seen, as far as other platforms being used in that regard, statements being made, taken back, then denied. And in the light of that, how do you look at this conference and now, this overall, the resolve to come down on this kind of terrorism that has of late permeated our society to a huge degree?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, or fortunately, we are living in a meta universe, because of the internet, where truth is the first casualty in many cases. And we are living in an echo chamber of quote unquote that my friend told me this, or quote unquote forwarded and receives on WhatsApp and on Facebook book and on other platforms. And we have seen, civility actually being reduced. And you could be anonymous and you could be, public at the same time, very loud and verbally very abusive. All these things they need actually regulation, and we have for that, the PACA amendment ordinance. I hope the final amendment in that would be made soon. We have defamation laws, which are one of the weakest, I think, in the world. Social media platforms are absent in Pakistan, unlike India, where they have them in major cities and they are held accountable when these platforms are misused. In addition, we have in it, the role of the media, the academia, the civil society, our parents, teachers, to make our youth aware of, how some people are playing with their minds and how to defend and save their minds from this kind of assault.
The effect of this kind of negative propaganda, which does spew from this kind of digital terrorism, there's no denying that. Let me include Waseem Saab in this. Waseem Saab, the inaccuracy and the propaganda, which unfortunately has become a part of this kind of terrorism, has to be addressed. And after this meeting, of course, there is now a specific target. There's a specific, there are points that were given out. There was a general discussion on how important it is to be able to deal with this. There is libel, slander, all of those laws, unfortunately, don't have the kind of effectiveness that we would like in society at this time to be able to deal with this kind of terrorism. It's often a case of too little, too late, and of course, a law as far as people, reputations, as far as their character assassination, all of that is already lost by the time that there is action. So, do you think that this conference will lead to the kind of action? We also saw Khwaja Asif's statements as on digital terrorism, particularly following. And of course, he was also talking about PTI and its social media retraction of certain posts that they had made. Overall, how do you see these events?
Well, I think you have rightly mentioned that we are a little late in this area. This area is very close to my heart. I work on debunking fake news and promoting fact-checking in Pakistan. As a journalist, I am a great proponent of freedom of expression, of course, but freedom of expression with responsibility. I also believe in Article 19A, which calls for freedom of expression with responsibility, with certain caveats. You have to take care about the friendly countries, their relation with the friendly countries, the armed forces of Pakistan also. So the information is very sacred to journalists, and I think as far as the mainstream media is concerned, as Janasab has mentioned, mainstream media has the institution of editor to check information. But right now, with the advent of the social media, everybody is a journalist. There's a citizen journalism. Everybody with a smartphone can make videos, post their comments and their expressions, and there's a lot of misinformation and disinformation in the cyberspace. We need to tackle this with some wisdom and some, patience. There is a need for some more legislation, but the legislation should not be hasty, like it has been done in Punjab, and there is a difficulty now in implementing. We need to take into confidence all the stakeholders, including the journalists, civil society. I think there is a general consensus that misinformation and fake news and disinformation is actually very dangerous for our society. It can kill people. It has actually destabilized countries and the society, and it has negative impacts. So we need to actually adopt a three-pronged strategy. We need to inculcate, media literacy in our students, in our children. They need to understand how to deal with information in cyberspace. They believe in everything which is coming on Instagram, Twitter, and on Facebook. So they need to understand how to decipher misinformation from the right information, fake news from the correct news, and how to fact check the information. So not only that, they need to create awareness in the society, and there needs to be legislation, and the legislation should be progressive, not subversive. And the legislation should lead to some heavy fines, just like, something can be tweeted in Pakistan and cannot be tweeted in
it should have its own effect. It should have an effect. It should have, be able to deal with the kind of new kind of terrorism that is coming. Let me go back to Waseem Saab and Wajih Saab, and then I'll come back to you. Ji, General Saab, can you hear me? General Saab?
Yes, I can.
General Saab, there is, another part of this conference was also, we saw Imran Khan Saab recently being accused, accusing again. He's been accusing institutions, he's been accusing individuals. We saw that happen again. We saw that trend, recently it started again. He's also, as far as he's been accused of unleashing digital terrorism against, and we have seen institutions, for example. Do you think, as far as, this is a broader issue because it relates to political parties, it relates to individuals and leaders who are, leaders of political parties' heads, and therefore, the responsibility that invariably should come with that. How do you think we're going to be able to get to that point?
Well, I think some of such people are following the propaganda strategy of the Nazis, which was led by their propaganda minister Goebbels at the time. And, his philosophy was that you tell big lies and repeat them again and again. And that will have the effect on the people's mind, and they will start believing that it is the truth. I think that kind of an approach needs to be understood by the people of Pakistan. I think the people of Pakistan must know, and they should actually push back, very boldly against such people who are the worst violators, I would say, that we have seen in the history of Pakistan. And I think personally we need to also control our own behavior. As I said earlier, unverified posts and messages being very carelessly being shared, with others. So as I said, they will need actually governance and also psychological shifts in Pakistan. And this is a very, very serious issue. I think the government of Pakistan needs to discuss this, to pay attention to this at the highest possible level. And unless this is done urgently, I think this can cause a lot of damage to our stability in general.
Let me go to Wajih Abbasi. Wajih Saab, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Wajih Saab, there is, the retraction that we saw as far as PTI is concerned, of the post that was earlier put up. Do you think that there is, in your opinion, a realization that there has to be within that party now, that if they want to remain within the system, they have to be more responsible, and that statements have to be, responsible statements can be made, and that, they really cannot work within the system if they keep on acting so irresponsibly? Do you think that there is that realization now?
Frankly speaking, I don't think there is any realization. There has been a long strategy of PTI that they use such type of disinformation and targeted disinformation to attack the institutions and attack different political parties and personalities. And when they get caught up, they just deny that we have not done it. So that is their old strategy, and this time too they did the same. They used that Imran Khan's handle to sent out that that particular video. And of course, they don't use the Pakistani territory to do most of the propaganda. Most of their propaganda actually originates from other countries. Their platforms, their resources are outside Pakistan, and from there they send out these type of videos and propaganda and tweets and all sort of things on social media and otherwise. So they use those territories which are outside the Pakistani jurisdictions. And this time too, they did the same, and they are denying it that we have not done it.
As far as people are concerned, do you think that there is, a growing realization within the people, the supporter base of the party also, that, there is, whether we look at the cipher, whether we look at statements that have been made later on also with regard to particular individuals that are made, retracted, posts that are put up, then retracted, there is, in your opinion, a growing realization, at least in the supporter base, that perhaps, the way forward is not this for them. And perhaps, that is something that the party needs to think about?
I think there has long been that sort of tactics being used, and we'll have to, the society and government and the media will have to do a lot of things to realize, to make the people realize that how to distinguish between truths and lies, and how to distinguish from propaganda and the real stories. And that sort of things that will take a lot of time and a lot of efforts we'll have to make. Because, most of the people, as I was discussing even before, most of the people don't read the print media. Print media, of course, has more information, more background information, but most of the people don't go to print media. Most of the people in this country are now going for instant information, instant type of information, which is half-baked information. So that half-baked information, when they receive it from different platforms, they just believe in it. So it will take a lot of information, a lot of government efforts, a lot of administrative actions, a lot of counter actions to undo these types of things. This one-time retraction and one-time realization, that type of retractions will not make much of the difference, probably. It will take a lot of efforts. And
a rethink within the party is needed, as to the way forward, and of course realizing that institutions or individuals associated with institutions cannot necessarily be used to create propaganda, right?
Yeah, of course. The political parties have a responsibility. Political parties represent the people. They have a responsibility, and they have the responsibility to the country actually. And they have to do a sort of you can't just cut the tree on which you are sitting. So we have to realize these things, that how much damage these sort of things are doing to the country and to the institutions and the policies of the country as a whole. So you have to realize it, but unfortunately, we are in a sort of system where everybody is going for all the stakes. They are not realizing that. They are not balancing out their policy. So that is the issue. But I don't think that one-time retraction and with the change of the policy on their part.
Let me go to Waseem Abbasi. Sahab, I'll come back to you. Waseem Sahab, can you hear me? Waseem sir?
Yes, I can. Sure.
There is, I want to, of course, also move on and talk about the US-Pakistan cooperation on counterterrorism, which was also discussed. As far as the US State Department, it's reiterated its resolve, as far as working on with Pakistan on counterterrorism. We also saw this statement by Patel highlighting the ongoing communication with Pakistan on regional security. Do you think this is going to be perhaps a renewed effort by both countries to deal with this issue? How do you look at this interaction, the recent one?
Well, there's a long history of counterterrorism cooperation between the Pakistan and the United States. Both countries have been working on counterterrorism since 9/11, and they have successfully collaborated in many successful operations. And, there is a need, there is a desire on both sides to extend this cooperation. And right now, Pakistan is being a victim of terrorism since 9/11, and US also has been victim. So there is a strong realization within the Pentagon and the GHQ that the cooperation must be extended. US has always been keen to provide Pakistan with the latest technology to deal with terrorism, and Pakistan has been actually boots on the ground, and they have been actually the one who has been sacrificing their lives to deal with the threat. That is a threat for the entire, the entire world, not only the Pakistan. So I think the cooperation, this is very heartening to note that US is now renewing its commitment to counterterrorism and cooperation with Pakistan. And I hope this will lead to reduction of terrorist attacks inside Pakistan and globally.
As far as engagements with Pakistan on these, this particular issue of regional terrorism is concerned, I'm going to go to General Saab. I'll come back to you. General Saab, we're talking about the US and Pakistan's interaction on regional security and its efforts, on working together with region. How do you see the US role in this regard? In particular, do you think that there's going to be a renewed effort together with Pakistan now in the wake of these recent attacks?
Well, I think the US is more interested in countering terrorism operations that affects the American national security. I think the government of Pakistan would want that it should cooperate with Pakistan when it comes to our national security concerns and threats that we have discussed today, and we have been discussing this earlier also, and the threats emanating from different, terrorist groups supported by RAW, which has the backing of the Afghan government, the BLA, BLP, and all others. I think the United States should very openly condemn all foreign efforts by India and RAW that it has been carrying out inside Pakistan against CPAC and against innocent civilians and citizens of Pakistan. That, I think, is lacking, that clarity is lacking, and it needs to actually come forward. And I think after that, there could be close interaction between the two countries. And
General Saab, do you think that US will come to, how far will the US go in acknowledging, one, like you said, that there is lack of clarity, but in acknowledging that there is, cross interference that comes from the hostile neighbor, that is India, and in, going even further and perhaps, reprimanding or, showing its reaction to what India is doing?
Well, I think the United States has its own sort of priorities, and we've talked about that also. Yes. They are, looking the other way around when Modi does, international terrorism, which includes terrorism inside Pakistan, which is very unfortunate. But Pakistan should continue facing all these issues with the United States. And at the highest level, not only, with the Pentagon, with the State Department, but I would say directly with the White House, because there are different centers of power that we are all aware in the United States. Very quickly, I'd like to add to what was being
जी
said earlier.
जी
We have to deconstruct that poisonous narrative
okay
that has been created against state institutions, particularly the armed forces and even the judiciary. And I think the state institutions of Pakistan needs to take this very, very seriously, and it should not allow anyone to misuse Article 19 of the Constitution, or to take, a shield, use it as a shield, that at one time you think that there is something which is allowed by this article, and then when you transgress that, then you start hiring people, which argue for you, and then it takes a very long time, but the damage has already been done. So I hope the institutions themselves, they realize this, and collective action, united action is taken against all this propaganda against state institutions.
Jalsa, we talked about, we have for a time to time talked about May 9th, and of course, propaganda also that's followed, and there is, and not just as far as, other institutions also overall, it's permeated into other institutions. You yourself mentioned judiciary also. As far as responsibility is concerned, on the one hand, we talk about action against those that perpetrate this propaganda, and certainly there should be, but where will the responsibility come, in your opinion? In people, not only that indulge in this propaganda, that, and the way that it's formulated and designed, and, it's done in a very controlled manner, but also those that have access to it and then are, are being influenced by it overall.
Well, I think all this has really created, monsters in our society. And it will need concerted effort, as I said, not only by the government, but by the civil society, and, the media, the academia, and, the elders of the society. They have to do this together. But I think the greater responsibility is that of the government of Pakistan, in terms of regulations and in terms of creations of new legislation and laws, to make sure that the violators are effectively deterred once and for all, through punitive measures.
And of course, the efficacy of those laws, not just the promulgation, which remains, a challenge and has remained a challenge for, for a long time as far as Pakistan particularly is concerned. I think that's extremely important. Let me go to Waseem Saab. Waseem Saab, your quick comments on overall, as far as digital terrorism is concerned, and also as far as the terrorism that is coming from across the border, from Afghanistan also.
Well, the digital terrorism, as it has been discussed here, that it is a new threat, and it has been realized not by Pakistan but all over the world, digital terrorism, because the social media has penetrated all over the world, and in Pakistan, in urban centers especially, and the young generation is keen to use social media, and their minds have been, manipulated through the use of fake news, misinformation, and selected narratives, and it is, as Janasa mentioned, it's a philosophy of echo chambers. If you like a certain video, a variety of videos on same topic will appear before you. If you like a certain ideology, you will be connected to same people who have the same ideology. So it will actually boost your happiness hormone, just to encounter anything that confirms your beliefs and your ideological thinking. So I think
unless there is a deterrence effect and there is more responsibility, then we will not see the kind of curbing that we need, the kind of stemming of this kind of propaganda that is really essential at this time. Ji, Wajih Sahib, your quick comments. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. Wajih Sahib, can you hear me? I think there's a problem with audio. Thank you so much for being with us. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. Lieutenant General Raza Muhammad Khan, thank you for joining us today. Waseem Abbasi Saab, thank you for being with us. Wajih Abbasi, thank you for joining us today on this very important topic. Of course, there is a clear resolve and a way forward by the armed forces, of course, as far as combating terrorism that is coming from across the border. For example, we've seen the recent attack on Chinese, and of course, in that context, the collaboration, the collaborative effort between other countries like China that we've seen, UAE, Saudi Arabia also, and of course our army's resolve to ensure that Pakistan remains safe and no amount of terrorism comes and no other country's soil is used for terrorism within Pakistan. And as far as digital terrorism, of course, there is acknowledgement that there is a need to deal with this kind of terrorism. It has to be fast, it has to be quick, it has to be efficient, and of course it doesn't just mean promulgation of laws but also the efficacy of them. Let's hope that we can move towards that. Let's hope that we can ensure safe spaces, and as far as digital terrorism is concerned, more responsibility being inculcated in all those that not only perpetrate it but also those that have access to it can perhaps exercise discretion. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.